saying, it's not who you know, it's who knows you. And I see there's a lot of people that are like, oh, Michael's on today, Celia, Kathy. There's a bunch of people who just adore you, man. So it's very cool.
Martin, remind me to tell that story about my cooking mentor when we get to that section of the conversation, because he actually got called out on it one day for somebody who didn't understand the meaning of not who I know, but who knows me.
Yes. So just hang on and we'll hear that story, everybody. So please just share your name and what you do.
So I'm Michael Brown. Best description of me today would be my Instagram profile, which is I'm a Pilates student, I'm a cook, I'm a cocktail maker, and I'm a wine drinker.
Okay.
I came to Pilates late in life. My story is I was looking 60 square in the eye after a mostly sedentary life, and realized that I needed to do something to ward off the effects of time on this aging body. In addition, there's some chronic health issues in my family. I'm the first male in 3 generations, I believe, not to have an adult onset diabetes diagnosis by age 60.
Wow.
And my father is one of 7 brothers, and his father was one of 5 brothers. So there are a lot of men with it in the background there.
Yes.
And I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I also knew that at that time, I didn't have the discipline to manage something on my own.
Gotcha.
I needed to put something on a calendar. I needed to be paying somebody. I needed to be going someplace. And I didn't know Pilates from patty cakes. I'd heard about it.
Yes.
And I researched a couple of things, and I found a boutique studio here in Sarasota where we moved 7 years ago. Okay. Not a classical studio. And from the first session, I adore my teacher there, and still work with her, mostly doing yoga these days, as opposed to Pilates, doing things to improve my Pilates with her, usually once a week. But from the first moment, I felt something I'd never felt before, and knew I needed to feel it again and often. I went into it thinking, oh, this is something I can go do once a week, and maybe it'll help me. And it took me the better part of 2 years to know what I felt that day. I knew what I felt, but I couldn't put it into words.
You couldn't put it in words, yes.
And only through some of the mentoring and reading and study and things like this was I finally able to put it into words. And I got to be careful because I get emotional thinking about it. And it's going to be the first time I've ever said it out loud. And by the way, about half the people in the room here are my family members. Hello, sisters and nieces.
Nice.
And maybe my mother. I didn't see her come in. I was 59 years old, and what I finally realized was that for the first time in my life, I felt my mind exercising affirmative control over my body.
Wow.
And a little backstory, were I 15 years younger, I probably would have gotten a diagnosis of a dyslexia or some similar thing. No reading problems, but I had terrible left, right, and doing it backwards on Instagram doesn't help any with me right now.
Exasperates it a bit. Yes.
And hand-eye coordination issues. In fact, my kindergarten teacher called my mother in at the end of the school year and wanted to hold me back because I didn't learn how to skip. And to her, that was a requirement for graduating from kindergarten.
Really?
Yes. She did not. But I did receive skipping tutoring.
Okay.
Being excused from math class in first grade. And 2 8th grade girls got assigned to me to teach me how to skip.
Which, in modern day speak is physical literacy, but yes.
Yeah. I was never good at sports. I tried them all when I was growing up, the intramural sports or the town leagues. I'd given up. I'd said, this is never going to happen. I'm never going to feel what athletes feel or what other people feel about their bodies. And then
Hmm.
suddenly I did. And I couldn't get enough of it. Um,
Yes, that's
and
amazing.
then I wandered on a business trip into a classical studio in Washington, D.C. about 2 months later. And I was still just going once a week, um, and really got my eyes opened there. And it's recently on Instagram, so you can actually go back and find it because it was just in early May.
Okay.
Um, the um, the studio owner took pity on me. Don't know what she saw, but she saw something, and helped me find a studio in San Francisco where my wife and I also spend time. And so I refer to that studio as my studio home. So if you happen to be in San Francisco, go by Carolyn Coombs's Keep It Classical Pilates in the Financial District.
Okay.
And then and so then I started reading and buying books and watching interviews on the internet and other things, and am thankful that I've got a huge family, um, but I also am getting a pretty significant Pilates family that
Yes.
I dearly love.
I feel that way. I feel like we've created this beautiful Pilates family, and for yourself as a student, and for those who are seasoned veterans, we all meet at this place, and we journey from here together. As cheesy and metaphorical as that sounds, so that's what's happening here, and I love it. It's interesting you said they took pity on you, and I heard saw potential in you.
I mean, that was she saw something.
Yes.
I didn't work with her. She had another client, but she was in the room
Okay.
when one of her other teachers put me on a Pilates designs reformer for the very first time.
Hmm.
So I was used to um, big company based near you
Yes.
equipment,
Hmm.
apparatus, um, and that's kind of when I knew that I needed to dive a little more deeply into this, but didn't
Yes.
know how to go about diving more deeply into it.
Right.
Um, I, did have the advantage that I knew that Joe Pilates was a person, which puts me way ahead of most practitioners. um, but and it was she'd give me a tour of the studio, and then after the session said, "You mentioned you were looking for something," and she used to dance for the San Francisco Ballet, and
Cool.
said, "I don't know the studios, but I know who taught all the owners of the studios, and let me do a little research on the neighborhoods that you can walk to."
Okay. Very cool. And that's what we were saying before you came on. Like, what made you chase after Pilates? And that wording for me is key because this is what you're doing. You're chasing after it. You're not just kind of doing a casual, if I stumble across it, I'll do it. But I see your posts, I see the classes you're taking, I see the people you're connecting with, and it's a pursuit. It really is.
I, um, I was on traveling either on business or visiting my mother. I forget which it was, and I had to fill out a new client form at a studio,
Yes.
and they knew I was only going to be there once or twice, whatever it was going to be. And the question at the bottom said, what are you looking for in Pilates?
Hmm.
And I didn't answer it. Um, and I've already said what I was looking for the day I first walked into a studio.
Yes.
Um, and I realized as I thought about it, as I waited for my lesson to start, that that what I want to get out of Pilates is I want to learn something new about myself every day.
Uh,
And if I've done that, I've had a good day.
yes.
And I'm growing not only in terms of my skill on a mat or a reformer or the tower behind you, um,
Yes.
but as a person.
Yes. Learn something new about yourself every day. That is a challenge. Challenge accepted. When that sense of a mind body connection came to you, like, can you explain that?
Yeah, I mean, it's looking back on it, it started coming to me right away.
Yes.
And you know, the fact that I could get a verbal or touch cue and know what that meant and be able to, you know, react to it quickly and then more importantly replicate it, you know.
Yes.
that you know that I mean, you know, Joe says it in Return to Life, that, you know, a healthy body is controlled by an active mind.
Yes.
And when you learn to do that, your life changes. I mean, it really does. And in, you know, in subtle ways and in big ways.
Yes.
Because we just don't practice Pilates. I'm pointing to a yoga mat in the next room. On the apparatus. If you're going to be a Pilates practitioner, you carry it with you everywhere you go in your life.
Yes.
You know, and it's an outlook, but it's a way of living and it's a way of moving. I mean, you know, I don't walk down the street without my stomach in and up anymore.
Right.
I'm slouching in this chair a little bit today because this is not a very good chair, but you know, I don't remember what it was like not to take a deep breath into my side ribs and my and my back.
Yes.
I don't. If you ask me to do it, I don't think I could today.
Right. Yes. I follow you. There's that mind-body connection is the sense of, well, mindfulness in everything that we do. So it comes with us from the mat and takes us out into everyday life. Like Joseph Pilates said, one of the points of Pilates is ease of movement in our everyday life. Like Pilates isn't necessarily to get good at Pilates. It's to be good at everyday life.
There is nothing about Pilates that is about being good at Pilates, because I will never be good at Pilates.
Yes.
You know,
that's funny. That's it's so funny you say that. The reason why I'm laughing is
my control balance will never look like that.
No, right? Yeah, I know mine won't either. No, we could just like settle that right now. We're not getting to get there. It's funny when I had one of my instructors when I was doing one of my first Pilates courses said to me, "Don't say it's good unless it's good." Because when we're teaching, we always say, "Oh, that was good. All right, good. Lift your legs, circle your legs, good. Okay, lower, good. Push, good." It's like, don't say it's good unless it's good.
I hear better a lot.
I use better a lot.
Oh, I hear it a lot.
Yeah. And that's I'm fine with better. Yeah.
I also hear no a lot. In fact, Kathy's still here. Kathy has a protege in Cincinnati, which is where I'm from and where a lot of my family still is, who I see when I go there. And Julie. And Julie says, no, in a drawn out sort of way. And
that's a gentle no.
I can hear her when I move. And she also says thank you when you respond to a cue.
Yes. That's good stuff. So can we talk about your food passion, your cooking, your
Sure. Yes. So let me just do this because it's, you know, people are supposed to do it. Professionally, I am a recovering lawyer. I practiced merger and acquisition and tax law for, you know, most of my adult life.
Okay.
Cooking was always of interest to me. My first year law school roommate was a decent cook and insisted that we eat in the apartment every day. We weren't library rats. You know, you came home from the library at 6 o'clock and you cooked every day. You cooked every other day. You did the dishes. The day you didn't, you shopped every other week.
Right.
And I got interested and I got more interested and decided to keep kind of going with it. And then 25 years ago, and my wife would tell you that, you know, I would decide to cook on Sunday, and it would take me all day to put something on the table. I got befriended by, and again, someone who saw something in my passion for food. A Frenchman by the name of Jean-Robert de Cavel. He was working in Cincinnati at a restaurant no longer open called La Maisonnette. The Maisonnette had the distinction of being the longest running mobile/Ford 5-star restaurant in the country, with 46, I believe, consecutive awards. And he had been hired to take over that kitchen, came from New York City. And we became dear and fast friends. And, I don't get to talk to him often enough. You'll see likes from him on my Instagram posts or something else. And he saw something, and we became fast friends, and then became my cooking mentor. And so when he was doing a charity event, and the restaurant's open, so you can't take people from the kitchen,
right?
Necessarily. Michael, you come on Saturday morning, and you and I will prep the charity event, and then you can come do it with me, or you don't have to go do it with me. And so I had spent a lot of time in his kitchen, being mentored and learning and absorbing and understanding. And then he opened his own restaurant in 2002.
Okay.
And now has several other restaurants. And I became a fixture there. I mean, I was in that kitchen all the time. The first 3 weeks he was open, I think. My days went like this: at my desk at 6:30.
Yep.
Away from my desk at 2. Walk the 4 blocks. Put on a kitchen jacket. Work until 11. Go out for one drink with the kids who, these guys are all 22 years old.
Right.
The line cooks. Go out for one drink with them while they close the bar at 4. Rinse and repeat.
Rinse and repeat. Yeah.
Home at 1, up at 5:30, at my desk at 6:30, and
Crazy.
Almost killed me. These. Let's see. In 2002, I was 44, and they're all 22, and they're all just they dragging in at 2:00 in the afternoon, just complaining about how hard they're working.
Yeah.
You don't have any idea, guys. And so I did a lot of wonderful things with him. I was invited in 1999 when the Maisonnette had their 50th anniversary party to assist and cook alongside one of the big names in the country, Patrick O'Connell from the Inn at Little Washington outside Washington, D.C.
Wow, yes.
They had 5-star chefs come in and each do one course over 2 nights. I cooked with him with Jean Robert at the James Beard House in New York in 2003. And either in 2003 or 2004, because my sister needed help with something. They had a video production company on the side at the time. I got to cook lunch at a 1-day on-location shoot for Oprah Winfrey.
Wow. Man, it's so cool. And Michael, you have like this unconventional path to getting there. And when I hear this story, I've for those of you who are watching too, I'm sure you've heard this similar career path with people in the Pilates world who they stumbled into a Pilates studio, and Romana was there, and they decided they're going to be there every day, from dusk till dawn or from bell to bell, just to learn, just to sit under these people, just to glean as much as they can. And you've done that in
Romana's case from Kathy Ross Nash. It was 7 to 1 or 2.
Yes. That's right.
Yes, and so I acquired a pretty good set of skills, and since I held the book up a couple minutes ago, one of the things that you learn as you start to master a skill, because nobody ever masters a skill. To use Kathy's words, one of the reasons I like that book and I keep it near my hand with often, is there's a red thread of everything.
Yes.
When you get proficient at something, that's when you make the connections. And A is like Q, and so you keep them together in your head and know
Yes.
that when Q's around, you can always reach back onto A, and
Yes.
A is also connected to D, and so are D and Q still connected in some, in some
Right.
way. Um, and that's when you know that you are getting somewhere
Hmm.
in terms of your knowledge.
Yes.
When those connections start to appear, when someone
Yes.
calls one out, they start to make sense. That's the first one. That's the first level.
Yes.
Then
Well,
when you
would
start to make them on your own, um,
yes.
and my Pilates is just barely there.
Mm.
Um, I do a lot of, try to do at least one a week of Kathy's group classes.
Yes.
And when she calls out in a movement, this is your horseback on the reformer, all of a sudden now a light bulb goes off in my head.
Yes. You're like, ding, 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 ding,
And,
ding. Right. Yes.
and so, that's my measure that I'm making progress, that I'm starting to understand some of those connections.
Yes.
Um, and I see your wife talked about cocktails too. And so
Yes.
cocktails is a relatively recent passion as well, probably 4 or 5 years as opposed to just 2.
Sure. I'm sure she would want you to talk for the next 45 minutes about cocktails.
And those connections are starting to be. Actually, I talked to Kathy Ross Nash a whole lot more about cocktails than I do Pilates.
Yes.
Oh, let me announce and introduce my principal teacher, Sarah Hester from San Francisco,
Yes.
who teaches at Keep It Classical, but also co-owns a studio in Marin, in San Rafael, called The Studio Marin.
All right.
And she wasn't going to be able to join us today because she said she was going to watch it 1 Eastern when she walks the dog.
Awesome.
Hi, Sarah.
Well, welcome. Hi, Sarah. So, cocktails.
Cocktails.
How did you, where did your passion for cocktails come into play?
So there's wine's always
Yes,
been
the secret's out.
wine has always been there,
Yes.
and we've always, my wife and I both always been interested in wine, and I have a small room here in the house with with some wine in it, and it really relates to the start of our time in San Francisco, where there is a significant classical cocktail culture of people who are interested in and doing classical drinks the right way,
Okay.
classic cocktails the right way, and doing interesting things with them. And once again, you know, at a couple of those places, we're kind of family now. Um, Sarah came in for 1 minute because she had a 10 o'clock class, or a 9 o'clock, that would be 7 and an 8 by Zoom this morning.
Yes.
Um,
So you're talking about classical versus contemporary cocktails. I mean Pilates. I mean cocktails.
Pilates cocktails.
Right.
It's all this. And once again, we start having a little bit of a haunt in some place. And the next thing my wife and I are family. And we talk cocktails, we talk techniques, we talk, um, from across the room, I'll see something come out of the well, and I'm like, oh, that person ordered a Negroni, or that person ordered, a Manhattan, or whatever it might be.
Yes.
And so those connections are coming through, and so there's a couple of cocktail books sitting over on that desk. The and again, it's something that I like drinking them. But I also like making them. I haven't had anybody make me a cocktail now since the middle of December. No, because I don't go out for cocktails when I'm in Florida. So it was the last time I was in San Francisco that anybody made me a cocktail. And I'm also having an influence on my family because they're now jumping into some of the of the classic cocktail culture and doing some of their own things. And I'll see in the family, we have this massive family text thread that's been going on for several years now. And one of my sisters will pop in with a photo of the blackberry simple syrup that she made for the cocktails that she's going to do that night.
Okay.
I'm like, okay, I feel pretty good. I feel pretty good about that.
Yes, for sure. And we have these passions. Yes, thankful for your recipes.
That's my niece Rebecca. That's the sister number. So I have five younger sisters and a younger brother.
Oh, there you
That
go.
sister number one's number five.
Are they coded? Like,
It's such a big
yes.
family that sometimes I
You have
think
to.
that way.
Yeah, too funny. That's great. No, I was gonna say I love that because like when I do these core conversations, it's always fascinating for me to hear what people love to do besides Pilates, right? So we were talking about Kathy earlier with her dogs, or you with your cocktails and with your cooking, and me with my classic car, or like
Yeah,
counseling.
I love watching your classic car.
Mhm.
I love those posts when they come up on the weekends, particularly.
Mhm. Yeah, that's what makes us us. And for those of you watching who have your own business, the reason why I put things like that out there in social media is not to boast about what I have, but is to connect with people on a different level, because there's so many people doing Pilates, but not everyone has, you know, kids, and not everyone has dogs, and not everyone has whatever. So if those are things that connect with you and resonate with you, you're gonna have that deeper of a connection, because that's one more thing that you guys could talk about, kind of offline when it comes to, um, you know, connecting and building relationships, because really all of this business is about is building relationships.
It is.
And yes, like Kathy says, your passion inspires passion. I
Thank
believe
you.
that. Yeah, definitely. Like I'm inspired by that and feel like, okay, well, what are the things, not that I'm gonna get into cocktails, but like the things I'm passionate about, I'm challenged to dig deeper with those things.
Right. I'm thrilled to have things that inspire me and give me joy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's my kind of hard for 2020, but I'm being pretty successful. My New Year's resolution was I reread um, Mari Windsor's essay in Voices of Classical Pilates. And for all the
Yes.
Pilates teachers out there, go pick that book up and read a couple of those essays every so often.
Mm.
I give you permission to skip Peter's impenetrable study of neuropsychoimmunology or
Okay.
psychoneuroimmunology. I forget which order
Which
the
one
words
first?
go in,
Yes.
but some of the other ones. And Mari, um, the title is, I believe, The Joy of Pilates,
Yes.
and ends it with the statement, I choose joy. And that's,
Yes.
what I picked for myself um, to focus on um, is being joyful
Hmm.
and appreciative of, all the gifts and the passions that I have, but trying to spread some of that joy. I mean,
Yes.
it's no good if you hold it in.
Absolutely, you're wasting it really at that point if you don't share it. I love that. I did read that, and I choose joy, and that concept of joy is interesting for me because it really is different than happiness,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can be happy without being joyful. I don't think I can be joyful without being happy.
Right.
Um, the line in the prayer is, where there is sadness, bring joy.
Yes.
And so, um, uh, and it is
Yeah.
different, and it's a different mindset. And again,
Right.
having your mind control your body gives you the ability to control other things around you, or
Yes.
or at least not to be distracted and swayed by
Right.
those
Yes.
things around you. And
Right.
goodness knows we need plenty of that right now.
Right. And because, I mean, happiness really is circumstantial, right? It's determined by the events that are happening in your world, where joy really is a choice.
Yeah, and um, I had this conversation with Kathy yesterday. My grandfather and her father shared the same birthday, which was yesterday,
Mhm.
um, and made me think about him a little bit. And one of his favorite things to tell you, he was a great lecturer. You couldn't be in his presence without having him give you a lesson on something,
Okay.
some sort of life lesson, And and one of his was, um, that people are just about as happy, and I'll to put joyful in there instead of happiness, because he used happy, as they decide they're going to be.
As they decide they're going to be.
If, you can always find something bad about your life, or that could be better about your life, or, be critical of whatever, but, either accept it or change it.
Yes. Yeah.
Those are your two choices.
Right. Absolutely. Sorry, Michael, when we were saying earlier about like with your friend who's a chef, and then in your Pilates, and then also with the cocktails, there's a common thread there that we've touched on a few times on other core conversations, is just the notion of someone saying, follow me.
Yeah. And sometimes without even, they don't even have to say it.
They don't even say it.
You're just drawn to follow.
Yes.
And and he or she leads, and then pretty soon you realize that you're leading as well, and that you invited someone to come follow.
Right. What does that look like for you in the Pilates world?
In the Pilates world, I have been so fortunate to be blessed by the people around me. Sarah left. I did see Gretchen Johnson walk in here. I don't know if she's still here. She's a teacher here in Sarasota who I don't work with all the time, or let me put it this way, I don't work with her often enough. And and that first lesson that I learned in that first studio,
there she is,
in Washington D.C., where Alma Ramos said to me, I don't know the studios, but I know who taught the teachers. And and again, some of the threads, I can now start to see similarities in teachers, because of where they came from.
Right.
And then I'm, during this period of time, I've had the opportunity to work mostly in groups as opposed to privates, with people who, who have taught some of the people who are teaching me, and I see where they got it now.
Yes. It's fun to discover those origins, right?
I've been trying to do the Thursday class the last several weeks with Chris. His Math class on Thursday. And I know Chris is your mentor or one of your mentors. So, from that moment, and knowing, kind of where I was supposed to be looking without even knowing what I was looking for at the beginning.
Yes.
And then I, started to, people started to find me is the better answer. I mean, I didn't find Pilates. I walked into a studio, and then Pilates went into my body and my heart.
Yeah.
And the same thing with with the people around me. And that goes from Carolyn and Sarah, who were both students of Brooke Seiler's. And that caused me to introduce myself to Brooke, because I just worked with the third of her students. At the time, I read Voices, and at her essay in Voices, she, at the very end, she talks about her teacher training program at Rehab, and said, "You can only do so much. You can give them the foundation, you can hone their intuition, and you can hope that they represent the work the way you taught it."
Yes.
And I dropped her a note that said, "Want you to know, I work with these three wonderful women, and they're doing what you wanted."
Beautiful.
And so it was almost certainly that little relationship that got me to Kathy and some of the other people, who are in my life and helping to guide me on this journey.
Yes.
One of the advantages, and this is an important thing, I think, in the world we're in today, whether it's the coronavirus or the police brutality or the race issues or the other isms that are out there in the world, we have a huge advantage in the Pilates community, because if you know the work and understand the work and the method, you also know that the only person that I can change is me.
Right.
I am powerless, Martin, to change you.
Right.
I can guide you. I can coach you.
Right.
I can cajole you. I can vilify you. Okay. But until you decide that you want to make a change, I'm powerless.
Yes.
And I always will be powerless. You can come follow. But, and so I can lead by example
Right.
in many ways. But that's something that the world around us doesn't understand. They don't know that.
No.
And so, you know, I can't force change on anybody. I can make it available and I can make it easier for it to happen.
Yes.
And we all can. But, you know, I can only change me.
Yes. Right.
Now, maybe by changing me, I can help change the world.
You inspire the world. You inspire the world to change.
Right. I can only change me.
Right. I made a post, a YouTube video right when things start to get really tense, and I entitled it, "You Cannot Change the World."
Mm-hmm.
And in it, I went on to say that the only thing you can change is yourself, how you present yourself in the world, and then from there, hope to affect your immediate sphere of influence.
Right.
And in hopes that they are able to inspire their immediate sphere of influence, and so on. So I agree with you 100%. And that is the beauty of shameless plug core conversation.
And it's why I was drawn to them. So I didn't know about it. I saw Brooke. That was the first one that I attended.
Yes.
But make it a point. Now, you're often at 10,
Yes.
and you're often, and I often have a lesson at 10.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes I see them later, or you started 9:30 yesterday or 2 days ago, and I popped in for 10 minutes before my lesson.
Yes.
The other thing that, as we're dealing with the world around us these days, as Pilates teachers, if you learned your lessons well, you have another great advantage. All of our isms at their core are a failure to see an individual as an individual because of preconceptions about a membership in a group. Okay.
Yes.
And it can be a good preconception. It can be a bad preconception. It can be a horrifically offensive preconception. If you internalize your lesson as a Pilates teacher to teach the body in front of you, you're 90% of the way there. Because you cannot walk into that studio with a preconception and actually teach the body in front of you.
That is so true.
And it could be the easiest little preconception. Michael could do a beautiful rocking last week, so he can do it this week. Well, my body might be different this week than it was last week. And so it goes from the inoffensive to the perverse. But if you learn that lesson and make it a part of your life, you're not going to have preconceptions. You're going to teach the body in front of you and treat that body as an individual with its own strengths and weaknesses, wants and desires, failings and successes.
Yes. That is so simple yet so profound.
We've never been, as a race, as the human race, as the human body, we've never been there yet. I mean, we won't, throughout everywhere,
right.
But we can be better.
We can be better. Just like Pilates, right?
Just like Pilates. I want to be better every day. I'm never going to be good.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I'm just
Oh,
letting that moment just
okay, just
that
thinking.
was, that was just such good stuff. I mean, sometimes you just have to just let that simmer, to use a cooking analogy.
Yes, I'll tell my Jean Robert story because
Please, yes, I
it
want
was
to
in
come
his
back to it.
restaurant one night, and a guest says something had been in New York and said something about being at Jean Georges, which is one of the 5 or 6 most famous restaurants in New York, and it's named after the owner, Jean Georges, the chef owner Jean Georges. Um, and Jean Robert said something about Jean Georges, and the guest gets big eyes and says, "Do you know Jean Georges?" And Jean Robert says, "More importantly, Jean Georges knows me." And the woman
Yes.
was very offended, and she said, "That's awfully conceited and arrogant of you." And Jean Robert said, "No, it's actually humble. There are a lot of people who say they know Jean Georges. But if you're in the restaurant when he walks by your table and says something and you say, 'Oh, I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio. I have greetings from Jean Robert de Cavell,' Jean Georges is going to say, 'Oh, how is he? I haven't talked to him for so long. When you go back there, tell him to pick up the phone and call me, please.'" And so, it's you
Known
know,
by.
known by. He knows me, but the woman was initially very taken aback that
Yes.
how arrogant of you to say that somebody famous knows you.
Yes. Yes. Amazing. No, that's a good story. So, Mr. Michael Brown, any closing remarks? You just dropped some great wisdom on us in just looking at the body in front of us. I absolutely love that on every level. Some takeaways from this wise student.
Um, I don't know how wise I'm just another traveler on this journey with a lot of other people and terrific guides along my way, um, and hope that I can guide somebody else, um, uh, you know, on whatever their journey happens to be. Um, no, Kathy has to run because she's teaching. She told me she's teaching at 11:30,
Yes,
so
yes,
she's got to get set up. But I'm honored to be here. I'm honored to share a little bit of my passions, whether it's Pilates or whatever the cocktail is going to be tonight, um,
yes.
or my cooking, because they're all passions, and what you find is Pilates makes them all easier.
Yes.
We move more efficiently, we think more clearly, and maybe it's this. Um, Jay Grimes likes to say that we know, but Joe Pilates didn't come up with the 6 principles of Pilates. That his would have been move.
Right.
Um,
One. Stop.
but
Yes. Yes.
you know, take those 6 principles. They're not the principles of Pilates. They're the principles of living.
Mhm.
Pilates is unique in that you are essentially applying them standalone. That's all you're doing when you practice Pilates is focus on one or more of those 6 things.
Of those 6, yes.
Um, but they're a hugely important component of everything you do every day.
Absolutely.
And you actually brought it up in the couple of text messages that we exchanged last night, that
The precision.
how are cooking and Pilates similar? Well, life and Pilates are similar in
Yes.
that without concentration and control and precision and flow and breathing, and I just missed one. Um, you know,
Flowing movement?
you can't function.
Yes. Yes.
And so that's the connection. And it's you aren't going to have very many students who get there, in your studio. Most of them are there for a 1 hour workout,
Right.
um, and they know that Pilates makes them feel better.
Yes.
Um, but uh, the people who internalize it, the people who are living the life that Joe wanted everyone to live,
Yes. Yes.
um, you realize just how pervasive in your life all of this is.
Absolutely. I've heard the definition of wisdom as the practical application of knowledge. And I believe, Michael, you are doing a great job of applying the knowledge as you're receiving it. Hence, I call you wise.
Thank you so much. I don't cop to that, but I will take it.
Oh, there you go. Thanks for joining me today, man.
One other piece of wisdom.
Sure, drop it.
Don't discount when you get a compliment.
Great.
Don't slough it off. Don't, say, oh no. Say thank you. Thank you.
Yes. You're welcome. All right, I will sign you off. I'll send you the replay later.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate your time as always.
My pleasure to be here, and I hope to. I don't think I'm doing anything at 10 tomorrow, so I'll probably pop in near the beginning tomorrow if I don't forget.
Joel's going to be on live on Grotz. Joel Crosby.
So the last comment is from my goddaughter Erin.
Okay.
Whom I took to a studio when she was here in March.
Mm-hmm.
And Lauren is a niece. Kathleen is a sister. Big Dog Dave is the only son of sister number one.
Amazing.
She has 5 daughters and a son. So
all your fans are here.
It's most of my family.
Amazing. Thank you, everyone, for joining us.
Thank you, Martin. Sign you up. Joy. It was a joy, actually.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us today on Core Conversations. This organic platform has been made possible by amazing people like yourself. So if you're a Pilates instructor or a movement specialist of some kind and you want to be a guest, please message me. If you're in some other field and the messages just resonate with you, message me. I'd love to have you on. All of our messages connect, and for some reason, they all help us in this battle. We're all in this game together, so I'd love to hear from you. Let your words be life to someone else. Check out our website, personalvictory.ca. Click the Core Conversations page to see who our upcoming guests are, and I will see you next time on Core Conversations.